you get a new clock, say daddy?
Tim's loud enough, but in a charging.
Talk to me now, we're outside.
We are outside, centrally speaking, the special edition. We're on a farm. We're chilling on a farm.
Centrally Speaking is a program that opens up the conversation around important matters of economics and finance, matters of national importance that have an impact on your life.
So we're in Osborne Store, Clarendon. We're on the chicken farm of farmer Aidon Chin. We're going to be talking to him about the impact of inflation on his business. Then we're going to be talking to a chief economist at Bank of Jamaica. He's going to be answering some of those inflation questions.
But before we do that, as always, let's check in with the streets.
Streets time!
How many stories high is the Bank of Jamaica building? Is it A, 13 stories, B, 12 stories, C, 15 stories, or D, 14 stories?
The Bank of Jamaica. 14 stories.
15 stories? 15.
D, 14 story.
I'd say 13.
D, 14 stories.
D, 14. Very large, very big, very huge, big.
I would say I'll go with C, 15 stories.
Stories? I don't know, probably C.
I'd go with A because I know that it's not high, but it's deep, it goes underground.
So Jamaica, I understand. You wouldn't readily know that Bank of Jamaica has 14 floors. But guess what? We don't have a 13th floor. So it's 12, 14, then a penthouse. All right? But more centrally speaking, right after this break.
We're here to open a savings account for my son John. I really want him to start saving and managing his own money.
And I need for Safe to visit my father in New York.
Okay, based on what you said and our risk assessment, he will qualify for simplified customer due diligence requirements. I'll need your ID, proof of income, TRN, and John's ID as well.
Okay, here you go.
Opening an account is easier than you think using simplified customer due diligence requirements, also called CDD.
Welcome back to Centrally Speaking. We are outside and we are in Osborne Store, Clarendon on Chin's Poultry Farm.
Yes, centrally speaking, welcome back. Today we're talking to Aidon Chin. He's the managing director of Chin's Poultry Farm. It's an interesting topic today. We're talking about agriculture, farming, inflation.
So, Aidon, welcome to Centrally Speaking.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so there's this thing we do with any new guest. Share with us from which parish do you hail, and which high school did you attend?
My name is Aidon Chin. I'm from Clarendon. Right here in Osborne Store.
Right.
I went to Glenmere High School.
All right, the Glenmere High School, and there you have it. One human being, on Centrally Speaking, that went to the Glenmere High School.
Look him specifically.
No wrong with that. So, Aidon, agriculture, you look pretty young. Tell me a little bit about how you got into the business of agriculture.
Well, I am young. I'm just 23 years young.
You're young for true.
Yeah, you're young. You're real young.
My parents started the farm in 1991.
Yeah.
I grew up on the farm until I was maybe 13, 14.
Yeah.
And went abroad to school, and farm wasn't doing so well, and father fell ill and came back and started managing the farm, and then did some expansion and renovation, and we are where we are now.
Okay.
All right.
So it was always a poultry farm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ever since the start.
Okay.
Poultry farm.
All right, so you mentioned being abroad and coming back and doing some expansion. Did that include technology, adjusting, using new technologies to improve the efficiency?
Well, previously, pre-COVID in 2020, we had 5 poultry houses here and 3 other ones around the back, so 8 in total. The houses deteriorated to a point where they costed more to operate.
Yeah.
And the efficiency and quality that you could expect on a everyday crop,
Yeah.
Yeah.
average crop,
Yeah.
wasn't profitable.
Right.
So the decision was made that we needed to demolish the houses and bring in brand new houses that are bigger, more efficient, use less energy, are more consistent with yielding performance.
Okay.
In turn, would bring a greater profit.
Okay.
So that decision was taken, and in 2020, just when the pandemic started, I purchased the houses and we started construction. It took about maybe a year, and
that's
since
not bad.
2021,
Yeah.
we currently stand at 6 houses,
Right.
all with up-to-date first world technology.
So tell me, was agriculture your first love?
Not really.
What was it?
No, my honesty.
Well, I studied engineering.
Right.
You studied engineering?
Yeah.
All right.
I always had an affinity for the farm.
Right.
And as I said, I grew up here, so you want to see the business flourish,
Right.
and the property flourish, and I started to cultivate a love for poultry farming, I guess, per se. So that's what was the rationale behind the.
Okay.
Okay, so you spoke a little bit about the business aspect of it. You want to share with us, within today's context, in terms of inflation, has that impacted you?
I think it has impacted everybody, but in our sense, from our business, electricity costs is our main inputs.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with inflation, as I've certainly seen, where it seems every crop our electricity bill increases. The amount of electricity that we would use is, for the most part, consistent.
Right.
But every crop it increases, and that in itself is a struggle, because it's not like you'll be making any more profit or any more revenue to justify that increase. So,
Right.
and outside of that, the inflation has affected operational costs. We obviously have to pay employees more because the cost of living is higher.
Right.
My personal cost of living would be higher. Fuel to commute, supplementation for the birds, material costs.
Birds here, I mean chicken.
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 Well, material costs
Right.
in terms of what it costs to build the houses would
Yeah.
have been greater pre-COVID. It would have been lesser pre-COVID
Right.
than it is now.
Right.
Okay.
It was during the time of construction. I think shipping costs was also an issue for me, because while the houses were being shipped,
Yeah.
that was right in the heart of the pandemic.
So
shipping
you
costs
were impacted by
great,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
I think all around on different levels and in different facets, it has affected the construction, and it has affected the operation of the farm.
All right, so Aidon, in light of those challenges and the impact of inflation, what have you been doing to kind of navigate those challenges?
Well, I think the most crucial mitigation of those challenges is to have a solar system. Like
Oh,
anyone that has electricity as one of your greatest inputs into the business definitely has to invest in a solar system.
Yeah.
It's a costly initial investment,
Right.
but in the long run, it does mitigate some of the high energy costs.
Yeah.
Should really be more, but it is what it is. It's some amount of reduction. If it's 40% or 50%, it is a significant amount.
Okay.
In terms of operating, there's a necessity to be frugal, try to save where you seem fit, try to preserve or reduce some of the wastage that you do, whether it is energy-wise or material-wise or
Right.
labor-wise. Try to minimize the amount of wastage that happens, so that you maximize your dollar.
Right.
Right.
For output, yeah. So Aidon, as we understand it, you're a business-to-business chicken farmer. So you supply chicken to businesses, large businesses. So not like so we can come on and say we're going to buy.
Well, to explain it, I would be a contract grower for
Right.
Caribbean broilers.
Okay, right.
So, my business is to grow baby chickens or chickens
Right.
to maturity.
Yeah.
In the most efficient way.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I supply those chickens now to Caribbean broilers who have the job of processing and
Yes.
marketing.
Yes.
And then that's how I get paid based off of how well or the weight that I achieved in the time when I grow those chickens.
So we made a point at the top that you are a young farmer, right? So of course we're going to ask you, what would you say to young men, especially anybody who wants to start a chicken business, similar to the model that you have here?
Well,
What's the most important thing that they should note?
Well, it's a costly venture.
Yeah.
It is a capital intensive and initial capital intensive startup.
Right. Yeah.
And it is a business that requires management, it requires attention to detail, it requires you to have a certain interest in the operations of the business. It's not something that can be just managed by an absentee owner. It has to be something
Have
that
to be
you
present.
take a significant interest in, because you are paid based off of your performance.
Right, yeah.
So the better you perform is the higher your profit, higher your gross.
Right,
to cover
right.
all of your expenses,
Right.
which are significant.
Right. How many persons do you employ?
Well, on the poultry side of things, 4.
Okay.
Right.
4 persons.
Okay.
Since the renovation, the need for that much labor-intensive intervention is not as great.
Okay.
No. You know, the houses are, as a part of the benefits to improving and renovating, is that there's a less manual intervention that needs to be made.
Okay.
It's a lot more automated, a lot more efficient, a lot less maintenance is needed during daily operation.
Okay. Okay.
So the labor aspect of it is significantly reduced.
Aidon, earlier you mentioned technology and how it has improved your business. I really want to know, because this is the first time I come to a chicken farm. I mean, you know, barbed wire. I mean, I see the white chicken them with a little bucket. You know what I mean? Why are your houses different?
All right. So basically, what you are referring to is a curtain side house.
Okay.
A house that has curtain at the sides, and that is the main source of insulation.
Okay.
These houses are solid sided, so we have zinc on the outside, and you have an insulated material between another piece of zinc. So the wall basically is fully insulated. So that the benefit of that is that you maintain heat inside the house when you want it, like in the baby chicken stage when you'd want the house to be warmer.
Okay.
It maintains that heat for longer, and that helps you to cut down on energy costs, LPG costs, electricity costs.
So otherwise you'd have to heat in there?
Yeah, well, you still have to eat, but to the extent where you would have to heat, it would maintain the temperature from in the day longer into the night.
So it's less energy consumption.
Okay.
And the reverse now is also true, where when you want the house to be cooler during the day, or when the chickens are at a more advanced stage, the house has a greater static pressure, right? So the house builds up a faster wind speed, so it keeps the house a lot cooler. So energy costs are, you use less fans, the chickens grow more efficiently because you have less chickens dying to heat stress. So your ability to be more efficient as the crop goes on is greater versus a house that has
the curtain side,
which has a lower static pressure.
All right, so now we've been fully educated about poultry farming.
Right.
How can Bank of Jamaica help farmers like yourself? What can we do?
Well, to harken back to the initial conversation about inputs. And I think, well, as I said, our electricity cost is our greatest cost. So if there could be, well, I don't necessarily from Bank of Jamaica or from the government of Jamaica, with the farmers that have, our businesses that have a high electricity input, should have a lesser rate or a certain tax break that can benefit us.
Yeah, the bad.
Yeah,
especially
that's a good
if
thought.
the goal is to grow what we eat, there needs to be some facilitation of that initiative. You know?
Yeah.
That's what the government of Jamaica wants us to do. We need some help in mitigating some of the high energy costs that we face.
So Aidon, I have one last question for you. Based on all that we now know, we're looking to the future. What is your vision for your poultry farm?
Well, I think my personal vision is to diversify myself, my business, to go into other things, expand the farm, you know, go into other businesses, you know, push myself, see what I can achieve, and, you know, to see how far I can go.
Yeah.
I think that's my guiding vision.
So there you have it, viewers. Aidon Chin, Managing Director of Chin's Poultry Farm, here at Osborne Store in Clarendon. Now, one of my major takeaways from the interview was that he went to Glenmuir, and that's an important fact. Yes, we learned all about poultry farming and poultry engineering. Now that we've done that, we will be right back after these messages. We're pleased to introduce Courtney Allen, Senior Economist from Bank of Jamaica, to our outside set. Courtney, welcome to the program. All right, so we are on the topic of agriculture and yes, inflation. Share with us and our viewers, why is agriculture such an important feature of our inflation story?
Well, agriculture is a very important part of the inflation story.
Right.
Because when you think of it, we Jamaicans tend to eat quite a lot of those agricultural products.
Right.
So we have our vegetables, our beans, our root crops such as yam, potatoes, and so on. And of course, we also tend to eat quite a lot of cereals, which we also use those cereals to feed animals, such as the chicken on this farm, which also is an agricultural crop.
Right.
So basically, if you measure the importance of agricultural crop in the CPI, you could get approximately 30% by our measure in terms of the importance.
That's it, the consumer price index.
Right, in terms of the CPI basket, about 30% of it would entail your agricultural items.
Right. Which is significant.
But then we also have indirect effect as well.
Okay.
Because then you know you have your restaurants and your cook shop and so on, where those items are from products or they're used to get products for sale in those areas. So it's a bit more. And there's a thing about agricultural prices that it tend to move in stages, steps.
Yeah.
It's not like chicken that could be like $37.50. You tend to have agricultural items moving by 40, 50,
Wow.
60.
Yeah.
And so those are significant increases
Yes.
in a percentage-wise. And so that is why agriculture is so important to
Right.
us.
So you mentioned chicken just now, and we would have had an interview with Aidon Chin, a poultry farmer, and he spoke about the rapid increases in inputs, etc. What are your thoughts in relation to why chicken prices in particular have escalated so much?
Right, so the prices of grains have been increasing significantly on the world market. And part of why this is happening is because of the war that is currently happening between Russia and Ukraine.
Right.
Now, these two countries are major suppliers of grains. And so if you think about the supply that is available globally, and if you were to cut those supplies, of course, you did not cut the demand, and of course, prices will increase. So all the countries of the world are now trying to buy the lower supply that is available, and so the prices increase. And so what you have seen is that these prices, from even last year, when we had COVID, we had the prices increasing significantly, and then now we have the war, which has now put the problem, further pressure on the prices, and prices have been really increasing significantly.
Okay.
All right, so I just wanted to clarify for our viewers the weight for the agricultural produce, right? So if we were to say it in another way, would it be that because we as an economy spend a lot on agricultural items, it is weighted heavily in the CPI basket, and that is why it has such a direct impact on inflation.
Very good
Right,
question,
right.
Anna.
Mm.
And it's very important for us to understand how the weights are determined. What happened is that Statin would have done a survey to determine how much of your income do you spend on various consumer items.
Right, right.
How much do you spend on like your haircut, how much you spend on goods that you buy in the supermarket, how much you spend from things you buy in the market,
Right.
your electricity bill, transport, and so on. And so, depending on the amount of money that is spent by the average consumer,
Right.
then the weights are determined.
Right.
In terms, or another way of saying that the importance of these items are then determined. So what you have, for example, is that about 30% of the basket is about food, deals with the food items. And so you will find that electricity bills, which is about, I think it's about 8%, would have a smaller weight because you spend a smaller amount on your electricity bills than, say, the food. And so that is what determines the weight. And what you find from that people from time to time would disagree with the weight. But it's important for us to say that it is the average consumer.
Average consumer.
I wanted to talk to Auntie Pat, I wanted to talk to Sister Bib and tell them how they can manage their personal inflation or impact of inflation on them.
Right, that's a very good question. What they can do is, for example, we talk about growing what we eat. It's a very important thing. If we think about the prices of some of even the items we buy in the markets, right? For example, if you can remove those from your costs by having a backyard garden, where you have your tomatoes, your sweet peppers, and so on, then of course that cost would not be something that you will have to deal with on a personal level. And at the same time, when people have their backyard gardens, what will happen is that they are not going to the market to get the market supplies, which will mean that the demand or the amount of people buying from the market
will reduce.
Will reduce.
So the prices go down.
And the prices, of course, will be reduced.
Okay,
so, you know, we need to more depend on ourselves by doing a little of these things for ourselves. I mean, we have seen that inflation has been picking up and it has gone past our target range. And I'm thinking that that's one way in which we can mitigate the effect on a personal level. Another way is that we know also that there have been significant increases in fertilizer prices. One can now be thinking about what about these organic waste that you have from time to time. There are quite a lot of organic waste in this farm,
the manure,
which you can use to also mulch in your soil and to also assist
the composting
in the production. And of course that will reduce the amount of fertilizer that you have to buy. So that is very important for us now to be more reliant on ourselves, to help ourselves,
feed ourselves
with some of the items that we would buy on a normal basis.
So hold tight. Jamaicans, hold tight. The leaving word from Courtney Allen, a senior economist at Bank of Jamaica. You know, so he's encouraging us to grow what we can to mitigate the cost of these increases. You know, it's global, it's affecting countries all over the world, and Jamaica is not exempt. But we have to hold tight and try to pull through. This has been Centrally Speaking on the Farm in Clarendon with two Glenmorians. So today we were in Clarendon, Osborne store on the farm of Aidon Chin, a poultry farmer of Chin's Poultry Farm. So we spoke to Aidon about the impact of inflation on his business. And then we spoke to senior economist at Bank of Jamaica, Courtney Allen, about how inflation can be mitigated. So we're doing the fast facts a little differently today. So instead of me telling you what they are, you're going to hear it from them themselves. Here are their fast facts. Number one.
With inflation, as I've certainly seen where it seems every crop or electricity bill increases. The most crucial mitigation of those challenges is to have a solar system.
Number two.
There's a necessity to be frugal, try to save where you seem fit, try to preserve or reduce some of the wastage that you do, whether it is energy-wise, material-wise or
Right.
labor-wise. Try to minimize the amount of wastage that happens so that you maximize your dollar.
Number 3.
Electricity cost is our greatest cost. So if there could be, well, I don't necessarily from Bank of Jamaica or from the government of Jamaica,
Right.
Yeah.
with the farmers that have, our businesses that have a high electricity input,
Right.
should have a lesser rate or a certain tax break can benefit us.
Yeah, the bad.
Yeah.
Especially if the goal is to grow what we eat, there needs to be some facilitation of that.
Number 4.
Agriculture is a very important part of the inflation story.
Right.
Because when you think of it, we Jamaicans tend to eat quite a lot of those agricultural products.
Right.
So we have our vegetables, our beans, our root crops such as yam, potatoes, and so on. And of course, we also tend to eat quite a lot of cereals, which we also use those cereals to feed animals such as the chicken on this farm.
Number 5.
The prices of grains have been increasing significantly on the world market. And part of why this is happening is because of the war that is currently happening between Russia and Ukraine.
Right.
Now, these two countries are major suppliers of grains.
My diamonds
And
they wanna be clocks.
I'm a Tim's.
And no mesh marine.
Talk to my Tim's.
Body though.
Touch me now. All right, so today was an exciting show. I'm sure you all enjoyed it. So we learned a lot about poultry farming, and we also learned about inflation. Anna, what was your major takeaway?
Chicken and stush.
We have sush chicken. That was an important.
AC.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Chicken hot.
So we are eating luxurious chicken, and that was one of the major takeaway. But for me, we need to eat what we grow. So Anna, we need to plant something.
Yeah.
And remember that, viewers, it's important. So let us start to look at how we can manage our own inflation.
And the Bank of Jamaica is also committed to ensuring that it does its part in managing inflation so that you can live comfortably.
All right, so with that, a reminder, join us next week right here at this time on your station. And you can also, for more information, visit our website at www.poj.org.jm.
And remember to watch us on Centrally Speaking next week, same time on this station for more Centrally Speaking. Big up every chicken farmer across Jamaica. Big up on the good selves. Thank you for taking care of our needs. Until next time, I'm Anna.
And I'm Sheena. Thanks for watching. Centrally Speaking is a production of Bank of Jamaica.